It's midnight sharp and you're watching World News Program with me, Miriam Zian, to the headlines. Zionist aggression on Gaza continues unabated with 88 new martyrs, bringing the death toll to more than 43,000. Next, global protests mount against Israeli actions as Hamas commands Spain for blocking U.S. arms shipment. And Ireland joins genocide lawsuit at ICJ. Also coming up, 5 Lebanese were killed in Israeli raids. Death toll from Israeli attacks on Lebanon rises to 3,117. And UNIFIL condemns Israeli destruction of peacekeeping property as violation of international law. And Trump surpasses 300 electoral votes, appoints Wiles as White House Chief of Staff. Kremlin reaffirmed Putin's willingness to discuss Ukraine. With Trump, Zelensky slams calls for Kiev, concessions to Moscow. Hello and welcome back to the details. The Health Ministry in Gaza said on Friday that at least 43,500 people have been killed in more than 13 months of the Zionist genocidal war on Gaza. The toll includes at least 88 deaths in the previous 24 hours in various parts of the Strip. The statement added that some 684 others were injured in the ongoing assault. The United Nations Office for Human Rights confirmed that most of the victims of the Zionist genocide in Gaza are women and children. In a statement on Friday, OCHA stated that nearly 70% of the confirmed victims of the war on Gaza are women and children. The Israeli army continues to kill more Palestinians in Gaza, particularly in northern Governorate, amid ongoing genocide and ethnic cleansing for the past 35 days, leaving martyrs and wounded, the majority of whom are women and children. Following the report, UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk stressed the urgent need for credible, impartial accountability for alleged international law violations by the occupation. He called for collecting evidence and urged Israel's immediate compliance with International Court of Justice rulings, citing recent actions in northern Gaza and laws impacting UNRWA.
The report raises concerns about the actions of the Israeli Defense Forces with respect to forcible transfer, attacks on hospitals in apparent systematic fashion, and journalists. It also points to the reported use of white phosphorus munitions. The International Court of Justice, in its series of orders on provisional measures, underscored the international obligations of Israel to prevent, protect against, and punish acts of genocide and associated prohibited conduct. It is essential that there is due reckoning with respect to the allegations of serious violations of international law through credible and impartial judicial bodies, and that in the meantime all relevant information and evidence are collected and preserved.
The World Health Organization stated that more than 10,000 children in northern Gaza have been deprived of their right to the second dose of the polio vaccine. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus reported that between 7,000 and 10,000 children in the northern Gaza Strip were unable to receive their second dose of the polio vaccine, putting them at increased risk of complications and further dangers. The Al-Qassam Brigade's the military wing of Hamas broadcast footage that they claimed shows the targeting of an Israeli Merkava tank near the Khuzandar area in northwestern Gaza City. Let's take a look.
يتم تجهيز عبوة شديدة الانفجار من نوع شواظ 3 لتدمير آليات العدو. اللهم بحولك وقوتك، لا بحولنا وقوتنا. اللهم يا رب احفظ المجاهدين. اللهم يا رب بحولك وقوتك يا رب. عليها يلا. بسم الله، الله أكبر.
And on Friday, the Al-Nasr Salah ad-Din Brigades, the military wing of the Popular Resistance Committees in Palestine, aired footage that they stated shows their forces seizing an Israeli reconnaissance drone of the Evo Max type while it was performing intelligence missions over the central area of the Gaza Strip.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قاتلوهم يعذبهم الله بأيديكم ويخزهم وينصركم عليهم ويشفي صدور قوم المؤمنين. اليوم الخميس 7 نوفمبر 2024 بفضل الله عز وجل تمكنا نحن في ألوية الناصر صلاح الدين الجناح العسكري للجان المقاومة الشعبية من إحكام السيطرة وإسقاط مسيرة أكواد كابتر من نوع إيفو ماكس ماذيك 3 تقوم بمهام استخباراتية دقيقة في المنطقة الواقعة شمال مخيم المغازي وسط قطاع غزة. ونؤكد للعدو الصهيوني أننا أصبحنا نعلم بما قامت به تلك المسيرة من جمع معلومات هامة وأننا على أتم الجهوزية للتعامل معها. وليعلم العدو الصهيوني أن النصر حليفنا إن شاء الله. الله أكبر، والنصر للمجاهدين والخزي والعار لمن استمر الذل والهزيمة. والسلام عليكم.
Hamas has emphasized the importance of global popular mobilization in support of the people of Gaza, who have been subjected to ongoing genocide for over 13 months. In a statement on Friday, Hamas leader Mahmoud Mardawi called on the people of the West Bank to continue and intensify their efforts to support Gaza and stand with the prisoners. He stressed the need for freedom, loving individuals worldwide, especially in Arab and Islamic countries, to take to public squares and streets in defense of the Palestinian people's right to life and freedom.
What is happening to the people of Gaza is a documented act of genocide, captured in sound and image, calling for an uprising proportional to the scale of the crime committed against them by the Israeli occupation. Today, the world, with its nations and institutions from east to west, faces a true humanitarian test in the face of this ethnic cleansing in Gaza. The silence and hesitation that have persisted for so long must end, and everyone must deliver a clear message to Netanyahu and his extremist government. Gaza is not alone.
And global outrage against Israeli actions is intensifying, with protests and shows of solidarity spreading throughout cities and stadiums, calling for justice for Palestinians and challenging prevailing peace narratives. Hossein Barkan has more details on this.
A volcano of outrage erupts against the Zionist entity, spewing ember and ash over its strongholds, underscoring the depth of condemnation and rejection. This wave of anger dismantles the propaganda that Israel used to repair its grim image. Despite the open license granted to the Zionist entity by Western powers, Zionist protocols are being increasingly met with resistance, even in sports stadiums, where the cruelty and barbarity displayed span from the war crimes in Gaza to the shocking display in the Netherlands, where Zionist supporters callously ignored a moment of silence for Spanish flood victims. This growing movement for truth has reached critical mass, with signs of solidarity surfacing in major stadiums. Supporters in Barcelona's Camp Nou stadium unfurled banners advocating for Al-Quds freedom, the resistance, and Palestinian rights. Protests in cities across the world, spanning the United States, the UK, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Australia, and more illustrate an awakening among the Western public. This awareness challenges the narrative of peace perpetuated by Western leaders, questioning how anti-Semitism accusations are wielded to obscure the atrocities of an entity that extends its aggression even to supposed allies. As Europe's populace begins to question the legitimacy of Israeli policies, one fundamental question resonates: what path to peace remains in an occupied Palestine?
The Islamic resistance movement Hamas commended Spain's decision to prevent the docking of 2 U.S. ships carrying weapons and military supplies intended for the Zionist occupation. In a statement on Friday, Hamas highlighted that this action aligns with Spain's stance against Zionist aggression on Gaza and its refusal to support armaments that enable continued acts of violence against the Palestinian people. Hamas also called on the UN to issue a resolution prohibiting arms exports to the occupation.
We commend Spain's decision to block the docking of 2 U.S. ships carrying weapons and military supplies intended for the Zionist occupation. The ongoing support for the U.S. administration in providing arms and military resources to the Zionist occupation makes it legally, politically, morally, and humanely responsible for the crimes, massacres, and genocide perpetrated by its Zionist Nazi army against civilians for over a year. We call on the United Nations to adopt a resolution criminalizing and banning arms exports to the Zionist occupation and to apply all necessary pressure to end its genocide and ongoing aggression against our land, people, and sacred sites.
And Ireland has announced its intention to join the genocide lawsuit filed by South Africa against the Zionist occupation at the International Court of Justice. Irish Foreign Minister Michael Martin stated in a session held in the lower house of Parliament that the country would make an official announcement regarding this decision by the end of the year. He pointed out that the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip has turned into collective punishment and has led to the complete destruction of the area. Additionally, the Irish Parliament approved a non-binding proposal calling on the Irish government to halt all forms of military cooperation with the Zionist occupation and to impose sanctions on it.
As I have made clear on this issue repeatedly, the government intends to file a declaration of intervention in the case initiated by South Africa against Israel under the Genocide Convention at the International Court of Justice. The House will recall that it has always been the government's intention to file this declaration after South Africa has filed its memorial in the case.
And Defense Civil Services in Tulkarem, located in the occupied West Bank, have confirmed that Israeli occupation forces obstructed the work of paramedics attempting to reach the injured for rescue. The report adds that all hospitals' entrances were blocked by these forces. Notably, a Palestinian was martyred by shrapnel from Israeli gunfire, and a woman was injured on Thursday during an incursion by Israeli forces into Tulkarem refugee camp in the occupied West Bank.
During some raids, hospital entrances are blocked, with checkpoints and inspections hindering medical teams. We face severe difficulties managing injuries, relying on field teams inside the camp to help. Sometimes, our teams move the injured from house to house or alley to alley to reach safer areas where ambulances are waiting outside the camp. This morning, we attended to 6 injured individuals from Tulkarem camp with shrapnel wounds who were transferred to hospitals in Tulkarem. We also responded to a murder and other injuries due to shrapnel inside the camp.
And Yemen Houthis targeted Navatim base in the Negev region in southern occupied Palestine with a hypersonic ballistic rocket called Palestine 2 and downed early on Friday a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper in the airspace of the Yemeni province of Al-Jawf, according to the Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Sari'a. Speaking during a pro-Palestinian protest in Sana'a, Syria said the group will continue their targeted operations and that they will continue imposing their naval blockade on Israel and would target any ships belonging to, linked to, or heading to Israel until the Zionist occupation's war in Gaza and Lebanon stops.
The missile force of the Yemeni armed forces carried out an effective military operation targeting the Nevatim air base in the Negev region in southern occupied Palestine with a hypersonic Palestine II missile, which reached its target. Thanks be to God, with the help of God Almighty, our air defenses succeeded in shooting down an American MQ-9 aircraft while it was carrying out hostile missions in the airspace of El Jouf Governorate at dawn on Friday. Thus, the number of American aircraft that the Yemeni air defenses succeeded in shooting down of this type rose to 12 aircrafts during the Battle of the Promised Conquest and the Holy Jihad in support of the Battle of the Flood of Al-Aqsa.
إسنادا لمعركة طوفان الأقصى.
And from the genocide in occupied Palestine, we move to the aggression or the Israeli aggression in Lebanon. 5 Lebanese were killed in an Israeli raid that targeted the towns of Kfar Tibenit and Zebdin in southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Ministry of Health confirmed in a statement on Friday that it had recorded 5 martyrs and a number of wounded in the preliminary toll following an Israeli shelling that targeted residential buildings in the towns of Kfar Tibnit and Zebdin south of the country. The Lebanese Ministry of Health announced the death of 15 martyrs and the injury of 69 people in Israeli occupation raids launched on Lebanon on Thursday. The Public Health Emergency Operations Center of the Lebanese Ministry of Health reported that the total number of martyrs and wounded since the beginning of the aggression on Lebanon until Thursday reached 3,117 martyrs and 13,888 wounded. The United Nations peacekeeping forces in Lebanon, UNIFIL, said that the actions of the Israeli army against it near the Blue Line are deliberate and direct. UNIFIL added in a statement that the occupation army destroyed Thursday part of a fence and a concrete structure at its site in Ras al-Naqura, stressing that its deliberate and direct destruction of its property is a violation of international law and Resolution 1701. And Hezbollah released video footage that it claims shows an operation targeting gatherings of Israeli occupation forces at the al-Baghdadi site and around the town of Kafr Kila on Lebanon's southern border. Let's take a look. Entrusted by the President of the Republic, Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf arrived today in Sochi, Russia, to take part in the inaugural Russia-Africa Partnership Ministerial Conference set for November 9 and 10, 2024. According to a statement from the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this ministerial meeting serves as a follow-up to decisions and recommendations from the first and second Russia-Africa Partnership Forum summits. The conference is expected to focus on strengthening Russia-Africa cooperation across key areas for both sides. Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf also reviewed with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov the current status and future prospects of the strategic partnership between Algiers and Moscow. This meeting aligns with the follow-up on the outcomes of Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboun's state visit to Russia in June 2023 and discussions with Russian President Vladimir Putin. A statement from the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs added that the two ministers who held bilateral talks at the start of the Attaf official visit to Sochi exchanged views on prominent regional and international issues, particularly recent developments in the Middle East and the Sahel region. And Sahrawi human rights organizations have issued an urgent call to the United Nations and the International Committee of the Red Cross, urging intervention to protect Sahrawi children in occupied cities from violations by the Moroccan occupation forces. Ali Salem Tamek, the president of the Sahrawi Association of Human Rights Defenders, stated that Sahrawi children face multiple violations at the hands of Moroccan occupation forces, including abduction, detention, physical and psychological torture, surveillance, and Moroccan intelligence-led schemes aimed at destroying these children through the promotion of drug trafficking among them. For its part, the Sahrawi Observatory for Children and Women in occupied La'youn expressed its strong condemnation of the violations faced by the Sahrawi children in the occupied territories, calling on the International Committee of the Red Cross to protect Sahrawi civilians, especially children, from the practices of the Moroccan occupation.
The information we have gathered indicates the involvement of retired Moroccan military personnel and individuals close to the police in trafficking drugs among Sahrawi children. These activities are carried out under the direct supervision of Moroccan intelligence services. Additionally, arbitrary arrests and psychological and physical harassment of children continue unabated.
The Sudanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs has accused the Rapid Support Forces of committing a new massacre against civilians in the city of Al-Hilaliya in Al-Jazira state, where 120 civilians lost their lives over the past 2 days. In a statement, the Sudanese Foreign Ministry reported that the victims were either shot or died due to food poisoning and a lack of medical care, as hundreds of civilians, including men, women, and children, are being held hostage in various locations across the city by the Rapid Support Forces. The Sudanese Foreign Ministry called on the international community to classify the Rapid Support Forces as a terrorist organization. And in the U.S., Republican candidate Donald Trump's total electoral votes rose to 301 after winning Nevada, which has 6 electoral votes. According to the latest count from CNN, Democratic candidate Kamala Harris remained at 226 electoral votes, with Nevada being the final state where Trump was declared the winner. This victory adds Nevada to the list of swing states reclaimed by Republicans, which also includes Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, states that had voted for Democrats in the 2020 election. The results in Arizona, however, have not yet been finalized. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump announced that he selected Susie Wiles, his campaign manager, to be the first chief of staff of his upcoming administration. In a statement, Trump praised Wiles for her key role in helping him secure one of the greatest political victories in American history. He added that she would continue to work tirelessly to make America great again, referring to his campaign's iconic slogan. In the same context, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said on Friday that President Vladimir Putin is ready to discuss Ukraine with Donald Trump, the U.S. president-elect, but does not mean Putin is willing to alter his demands and Russia's goals in Ukraine remain unchanged. On Thursday, Putin congratulated Donald Trump on winning the U.S. election, praised him for showing courage when a gunman tried to assassinate him, and said Moscow was ready to dialogue with the Republican president-elect.
The Russian president has never said that the aims of this special military operation had changed. On the contrary, he repeated constantly that their objectives remained the same. It is all about interests of security of our country, about interests of security of Russians who live there. That's why there were no talks about changes. Putin has repeatedly stated that he was open to dialogue with all interested sides and with those who could make input to the resolution of this conflict. It is necessary to remember it.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said on Friday that the presidency of Republican candidate Donald Trump, who won the U.S. presidential election, will seriously affect the political and military balances in the Middle East. Returning from Budapest, where he attended the European Political Group Summit, Erdogan said that Trump led to end the wars in the Middle East and that the Zionist entity started, and he must fulfill his promise, adding that Trump's start in power will be good if he stops supplying the occupation with weapons. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune expressed his sincere condolences and deep sympathy on Friday following the death of Rachid Makhloufi, a legendary figure in Algerian football, former FLN player, Mujahid, coach of the national team, and former president of the Algerian Football Federation. In his message, President Tebboune extended his condolences to the family of the deceased and the entire Algerian football community, praying to the Almighty Allah to grant him mercy, abode in paradise, and to bestow patience and comfort upon his family. And into some cultural news now, the 27th Algiers International Book Fair is drawing significant interest from visitors, especially in books that explore different periods of Algeria's history. Titles that highlight the enduring heroism of the Algerian people and key moments in their armed struggle against French colonial rule are particularly popular. Nabil Khazini has the report.
The Algiers International Book Fair is more than just a literary event. It is a celebration of national heritage and identity. This cultural event brings together authors, publishers and readers from around the world. Here, books go far beyond simple reading. They are a means to connect with history, culture and shared principles. The fair is a place where the past meets the future, helping to pass on values that shape who we are.
We have a valuable and important series of history books. There are books of historians, there are university studies, there are also memories and journals of people who participated in the revolution as fighters and even leaders.
The pavilions of the book fair adorned its shelves with historical books that have drawn an impressive flow of visitors since the very first hours of the event's launch. These books, rich with historical significance, have captured the attention of readers eager to connect with the past from the moment the event began.
I am personally passionate with history books, memories and testimonies, whether they are written by the protagonists themselves, such as the mujahideen or historians or the journalists who wrote about history.
There is a big rush for Algeria's history by the youth and others. I am very happy with this. It is the most important event to know about your origin, your history, your family and your country.
The 27th edition of the Algiers International Book Fair coincides with the 70th anniversary of the outbreak of the Algerian Liberation War. This provides a unique opportunity to reflect on the national memory and to reinforce its values for the future generations.
Ladies and gentlemen, our program has come to an end. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.